Okay, today we are working on a 2013 Lexus gs350 all-wheel drive. This video will be for front brake pads and rotors. I got the one side done. I'll give you a view and talk you through what you need to do. On the Lexus, let me get over here and show you the back side. There's a view of how the pads are held in. Rotate that pin around if it's not rusted in there. Pull the clip. Work the pin out. The pad retainer will fall out with it. And pads are in there. I'm going to leave the camera set up here. Hang on. I like to compress the pistons while it's on the vehicle, just because it's easier for leverage. I just use a big pair of channel locks. Now you see I push that one in. When I try to do this one, it pushes the other one back out. So what you need to do, I just take a screwdriver or anything I got around that'll fit into there. Just to hold the pad. While I squeeze the other side. You can do the same over there. That's good. That's good. And if they're not rusted in, the pads simply slip out. This one has the indicator clip on it, on the inboard pad, for when the pads are wore out. So make sure those go back in on the right side. Now I'm going to simply unbolt the two bolts on the back of this caliper. This assembly will come off. We'll change the rotor. In here, where the pads slide, I'm going to have my file and a wire brush. That's one of the most important parts about this whole brake job. You have to get these clean. They don't usually corrode too bad because this is aluminum. If you clean those out, put a little lube on them, the pads won't stick. Let me move the camera back. $18mm or 17mm for the two back bolts. And if this is stuck like the other side, I had to beat on the rotor with a hammer to get it off because this one's all rusted on. Kind of hurrying through this just so I can make the video a little shorter and not have to patch it and put it all back together. And it does give you a real view of how long this actually should take. I always hang my calipers up over the sides just so there's not a lot of pressure on the hose, but make sure when you pull it back over you don't get it twisted. If you get that brake hose twisted, it'll cause brake problems or premature failure of the brake line. I did spray this once already. I'm just going to give it another little shot. Hopefully it'll come off easier than the other one. Sorry. There we go. Now, this is like the other side. I do have some rust scale buildup. It's actually raised up, flaky metal. Make sure you get that cleared off. Usually if you just tap it with a chisel, you can see it'll all break off the bigger pieces. And then make sure you get around the flange really good. If you don't, it might not seem like a lot, but a couple of thousandths here or there, and that'll throw your rotor off and you might get some pulsation out of it or cause it to wear uneven. These are the little parts that don't take long. You do yourself and the brake job will be done right. You won't even get this at most dealers or repair shops. They only want to get you in and out as fast as they can. This is only going to take me literally a minute to clean this off, so I don't have any problems when I go to put the new rotor on. This is really only preventative. I like to spray the spindle nut. And the wheel bearing retaining nuts for the hub and bearing. If I got to take this apart down the road, at least I got some more lubrication on it. This vehicle is used in the winter and we salt the roads heavily up here. This is only 2013, but you can see even the rotors are already stuck on. You can't even pull them off. So any little bit of lubricant you can put on those, which I'm going to even put a little bit of grease on them to keep them from rusting any farther. Just in case I got to take them off later on. I got the rotor right here in the box. I am using all factory parts. It's just as easy to put the right parts on it. It's very hard to find aftermarket parts that are right for these, which would be a good time to note, at least on this vehicle, this gs350, the left front rotor and the right front rotor are different part numbers. They are actually marked left and right. So that's aftermarket parts wise, you're just hardly ever going to find that depiction between the two. So make sure that you get the right parts and put the right rotors on. I did put a little of that lubricant. You can use brake lube, never seize, silicone grease, whatever you want, around the hub of the rotor. I did it right there on the hub. Now, when you put the rotor on, you can see a little circle right there. I did clean this up so it shouldn't matter, but I always try and line these up and put them on the same way as they were. There's the little circle here. If you put it on in the same spot, if there's a raised rust spot there, it won't create a problem where you have a surface that isn't even. You got a rust spot and you put it over here, it's going to hold the rotor out. So just put it back in the same spot. Now, probably one of the most important parts is cleaning up this caliper. Now take your file and file all the surfaces down this pad slides on. You can use a wire wheel, wire brush if you can get it in there. These are a little tough because they're inside. Most caliper slides I just use a grinder on, but these I can't get the grinder in there. So anywhere that those pads slide, you got to get all the rust and dirt off. Those pads should move nice and free inside there with no binding. Alright, make sure you haven't twisted your hose on your caliper. Go ahead and slide that back on. I will use a little of this lube on the ends of these just because, again, these are open-ended holes and they get rust on the threads and they stick in there. So you got everything cleaned up, you got your new rotor on. Go ahead and bolt your caliper up. You may need to hold the rotor on at the same time, just because it'll hold it at a different angle. If you don't, you won't be able to get the bolt started, or they'll be stripped sideways. Tighten the two bolts up in the back. Make sure the rotor's not bound up. Give it a good snug fit, tight. Then you can take your new pads, some brake lube. I just run it down the sides. Careful not to get it onto your rotor surfaces. Remember, the sounder clip was on the inside. The curved part of the pad has to go towards the inside. That just slides in. That one slides in. Mine was rusted up. I'm going to clean all the rust. A wire wheel works really good for this if they're really rusty. Make sure you clean this pin up really good so it slides in and out nice. You shouldn't have to pound this pin in or force it in. I put a very light coating on it to keep it from rusting in the future and to make sure it comes out again. You can replace the hardware as long as there's nothing wrong with it and it's not bent up. It should be fine to reuse again. It's as easy as that. That slid through. Trying to find the clip. I must have kicked the clip when I wasn't paying attention here. Oh, here it is right in front. It's actually spread a little. So I'm going to just crimp that shut again, just so it's got a little tighter fit. Now it's tight. If the hole doesn't come up where you want it, simply turn that rod, slide the clip down through the hole, and that's it. Front brake pads are on. Make sure the rotor's free, caliper's tight. That's all you got to do for front brakes on a gs350.